purpose is to make a clarion call that look people, look parents, look citizens. The child of tomorrow needs to be prepared perhaps differently from the child of yesterday. And unless we make some fundamental changes in our thinking and in the ways we treat our children, it's not going to automatically happen. The clarion call we are making is not only for our own children, it is for all children. There is India 1, which is sitting in this room. People like us, with our kind of children. There is India 3, the poorest of the poor, the destitute India. But the India I would like to dedicate this afternoon to is India 2. The one which sits between these two. The India of the people who are not in this room but just outside. The maids, the drivers, the watchmen, the blue-collar workers, the people who brought us here, who take us back, the rickshawala, the autowala. This is a very, very large India. And they are within touching distance of this kind of world. And a decade and a half of good education could make all the difference.
What are the objectives of learning? Learning should be such that it grabs a child from anywhere and makes it stay in the school. Stay with the attention with the school. The child is, so it must be learning, must be attractive enough for a child to be wherever it is to come to school. So this school acts as a magnet if you have a good learning system. And the child should be exposed to the economic and social realities. The child should be exposed to the pride that is associated with his heritage and traditions. And the child should be given a hope that I can also survive in this society.
If the child in school, coming into school, is 6 years old and is going to live 100, what will that child be doing 94 years from now? We don't know. Frankly, we don't even know what the child will be doing in 2020. So, as against preparing people for a point in time in the future about which we know nothing, would it not be better to prepare them to respond, first of all, to respond with whatever shows up? Learn how to see around the bend. So I think we have to teach children not just to respond, but to think about ideas which can create new ideas so that they are the ones who create the tube ends.
There are 4 forces which I think will influence all schools in all societies. And they are globalization, the biological revolution, the digital revolution, and lifelong learning. And I would say 50 years from now, when some of you will still be around, school will not resemble the standalone institution that has existed for many hundreds of years. Much of education will take place without physical boundaries. So let me turn now to the kinds of minds which I think we need to nurture in the future, in school, at home, in the community. And there are 5. 3 of them are primarily cognitive, intellectual, the disciplined mind, the synthesizing mind, and the creating mind. And 2 of them have to do with human relations, the respectful mind and the ethical mind. These last 2 kinds of minds have not always been the province of school. I think initially schools were open only to a tiny minority, and so respect and ethics was really the job of home or of religion or of the neighborhood. But nowadays we cannot count on those institutions, home, religion, the neighborhood, to cultivate enough respect or enough ethics for there to be a viable society. And that's why, to my mind, the agenda of school needs to broaden to include not just the more cognitive things that I spoke about and that we usually think about, but also the human dimension of respect and ethics.
Human beings are multidimensional, and we should not be focusing on only one dimension of development of personality of a child. We should rather be focusing on all the dimensions of human personality.
We could have done many things. We could have got into healthcare, we could have got into some other stuff. Why is it that we are into education? Very simple reason. Very simple reason. And that's because we think the multiplier effect of education, of good education, is the largest.
Schools of tomorrow will be a function of what we want from the students of tomorrow. So at a personal level and at a professional level, what would your ideal student be?
I think students of tomorrow will have to have a greater awareness and a bigger cultural upbringing that enables them to actually perceive and understand the different contexts that are shaping thought and society. I think the students of tomorrow will have to be more confident. I think the students of tomorrow will have to be people who are continually searching for answers, because the answers are not so obvious.
I look at attitude, aptitude. An attitude which says I can, and an attitude which sort of works as a team. So it's a question of teamwork. You have to network the skills that people have. And I would rather start building these skills right at the school stage than wait.
The ability to communicate, first of all, you should have some oratory skills. Then we look at problem solving ability. That's very important.
And I think at the end of the day, we're really talking about a collaborative model where corporates, the school system, the government, etc., have their specific role to play, and there is ownership and accountability at the end of it. And I think that is the model that works.
Adopt schools, give your name to that school, and see, just adoption doesn't mean one-time adoption and then forgetting about it. It's like adopting a child. You would bring up a child if you adopt a child. So you have to bring up that school, and it should be a competition between corporates as to which adopted school is better, and let's have that done.
For a student who studies, who's into engineering, the institution teaches him engineering, but I guess, he's not been, it doesn't teach him how to innovate using engineering.
Among all the graduates that country is producing now, the statistics say that only 10% of them are employable. Because what institution teaches is not required by the industry, and what industry needs is not taught in the institutions.
If anyhow we try to work with the 7 million children who is dropping out, or the 8 million children who is dropping out of the schools, and help them to reach the good life, the life which most of them aspire, but because of their understanding or their financial conditions, they can't reach there. If we are able to do that, the corporate will also benefit in this whole process. The corporate will have a huge amount of employable people, and then you can have a better skilled workforce to work with.